Assortment planning refers to selecting the right product and ordering the right quantities to match demand. One of the biggest challenges in retailing is identifying the product that people want to buy. The next challenge is to estimate the right amount of the stock or inventory that is needed. Too little of it, and you may miss sales opportunities. However, if you have too much inventory, you'll tie up capital in excess inventory or find yourself forced to sacrifice margin to get rid of that excess. Merchandising is the planning, developing, and presenting of product lines for the identified target market. It includes the pricing, assortment planning, styling, and timing of a merchandise assortment. What is the purpose of merchandising and of planning your assortment? If you think it through, the purpose is to meet your customers' needs and wants. The goal is to have the right product in the right place at the right time in the right quantities. Beyond this broad-based goal, you are aiming to know what your customer wants before they know what they want. The goal of merchandising is to predict demand. Our job as merchants is to combine a variety of types of market knowledge to make decisions on the amount of product, the price of the product, the color of the product, and when to sell the product. As you can see in some of the supplemental handouts that are available, a lot of these decisions are based on numbers because we can predict a lot of what will happen in the future based on what has happened numerically in the past. But there are also other elements that are based on trend, style, and competitor insights. A lot of a product category is also aesthetic and personal. This has to also be considered within merchandising. There is also an element of intuition and market understanding, knowing your customer on that intuitive level. For As Henry Ford said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. But what did he do? He made the automobile. Being in tune with what customers really want and need can allow for the best assortment decisions. What to buy might not be the same thing you bought last season. Now, in a fashion example, this might mean taking a risk on a small amount of silver sequin pants, not necessarily inventing a new form of transportation. But the point is to know your customer so well that you know what they want before they do. Knowing the customer will look very different from a large to small retailer. With a small retailer, you may go to market with a specific consumer in mind. You may look at a collection and say, this product looks like Sarah, or this looks like Joe, so I'll buy a little bit of it with that specific consumer in mind. But as a retailer grows larger, it becomes more of a numbers game, and the preemptive knowledge has to be more big picture. Efficient consumer response, also referred to with the abbreviation ECR, refers to advanced planning, process analysis, and database analysis. This allows you to determine customer wants in advance. Elements of this include creating a plan at the beginning of the season that won't change. This is to say, I know in advance that maybe I'm going to sell $100,000 of jeans. That's my plan, and that's what I'm going to work for. But then throughout the season, you're going to adjust as you see how the customer is actually responding. This is your in-season process analysis. You're going to adjust based on current trends and current purchases. Then you might change your plan or change your forecast to adjust for what is actually happening. That actual original plan number won't change. It's a number referred to as the forecast that would be adjusted based on that process analysis. That way you can see from that beginning plan to your end forecast how much you needed to change from the beginning to the end of the season. It's also important to understand your customers' activities while they're in the process of shopping. That's why you change the numbers within the season. So that's what allows you to reforecast in the season. Within all of this, you have to use databases to plan the assortment so that the merchandise the customer wants is available when the customer wants it. Timing is crucial, especially if you want to avoid markdowns and loss of profit. Additionally, If you don't avoid markdowns and loss of profits, you risk having a poor impression in the consumer's mind and risk losing a great relationship with those customers. All of these elements show the importance of an efficient consumer response. Assortment planning is critical because this is how you maximize your market share. Market share is based on who makes the most money, but having the right assortment will maximize sales, but specifically maximizes full price sales. Having the right depth can be incredibly critical, as can the right timing. Otherwise, you'll end up having large racks of markdowns. Assortment accuracy is crucial for both manufacturers and retailers, but they both face a lot of challenges. Manufacturers are competing with other manufacturers for the best price as they all have a lot of product available. So if they don't plan their assortments well, they lose that sale to a different manufacturer. Retailers also face a lot of challenges. Particularly in the US, retailers are overmalled, so there's a lot of competition and fear of sameness, i.e., fear that everyone will have the same thing. Therefore, it is increasingly important that retailers have the right product for the specific customer, and that has a lot to do with the timing, pricing, and quantity, as well as the style details. So, how do you gain market share? That all comes back to what we've been talking about, having the right product at the right place at the right time. What this also means is that you have to avoid stockouts, meaning avoid running out of stock, whether you're a manufacturer or a retailer. A stockout is exactly what it sounds like. It's when you run out of stock, not having the right SKU when the customer wants it. This can be detrimental to small retailers because it may mean you are no longer their top of mind retailer. If you don't have the product they're looking for in stock numerous times, they're more likely to go somewhere else to try and find that product. On the other hand, a retailer with a lot of money to spend on marketing may be able to get the customer back in store and get a second chance. Either way, though, stockouts cost a retailer money because they result in a lost sale. How do you prevent a stockout? Through adequate assortment planning. The global average of retailers out of stock is 8.3%. That means that shoppers will have a 52% chance of fulfilling a 10-item shopping list without encountering a stockout. Despite the initiatives designed to improve the collaboration of retailers and their suppliers, such as efficient consumer response that we talked about previously, and despite the increasing use of new technologies like radio frequency identification, RFID, and point of sale, POS, data analytics, this situation has improved little over the past decade. For large retailers, as you can see here, one of the biggest challenges is just in-store replenishment. You can see that 70 to 90% of stockouts come from replenishment difficulties. Some of you may be familiar with the US retailer Target. They have offices in India as well, for those of you familiar with the Bangalore region. They're similar to a Marks and Spencer's, which is in India and the UK for those of you from other parts of the world. They're only in the US primarily, but they expanded to Canada. However, after less than 2 years in Canada, they closed all of their Canadian stores and lost more than $2 billion. One of the key reasons that was cited for their closures? Replenishment difficulties that could have been an in-store problem, a supply chain problem, or an assortment planning problem. But interviews with customers repeatedly came to the conclusion that customers went to stores, couldn't find what they were looking for, and decided to stop shopping at Target. The shelves were empty and customers got frustrated and stopped coming back. Even though they spent a ton of money on marketing in Target's instance, it didn't matter because they didn't have the assortment they needed to maintain their business. Recent surveys on retail out of stocks have suggested that in store operations are fundamental to reducing retailer stockouts. Around 70 to 90% of stockouts are caused by defective replenishment practices in stores, opposed to the 10 to 30% resulting from upstream supply chain, such as shortages from the supplier. This is important to remember when you're managing a store because you don't want to lose your customers. This chart shows representation of who is to blame for inventory distortion worldwide. It was prepared by IHL Group and Order Dynamics. As you can see, overstocks and out-of-stocks cost retailers $1.1 trillion globally in lost revenue. This is according to this new study by IHL Group commissioned by Order Dynamics. Overstocks are responsible for 3.2% in lost revenue for the average retailer, and out-of-stocks are responsible for 4.1%. In North America, the loss from overstocks in the region is estimated to cost retailers $123.4 billion annually, and out-of-stocks cost another $129.5 billion. Although better forecasting tools have resulted in improvements in both metrics in recent years, this is still significant loss in revenue. Both of these figures are included within the first line item here, which is internal process failure. We can see additional elements that are responsible for inventory distortion, such as personnel issues, data disconnect, which is systems that don't talk, supplier issues, employee theft, and consumer theft. But clearly, internal process failure is the biggest cost to Following stockouts, there are three key purchase decisions that should be considered: a current sale, a potential sale, or a lost sale. A current sale is when another product is still purchased. This is when a substitution may occur. If the sales associate is able to help the consumer find an alternative product, or the consumer is able to find an alternative product that they like on their own, a current sale can still be made. A potential sale can refer to both a substitution or a future sale. Maybe the consumer will come back to buy the item at a later date or to buy a different item at a later date. A lost sale is most detrimental for both wholesalers and retailers. This is because no product is purchased. Looking at these factors broken down, if you recall, we took our budget multiplied by the portion for men's, and then we took the men's budget divided by our average retail price to find out our units. Now, our assortment factors and SKU information was not available to us.